The rain had returned to the small town of Ashton Creek, a soft, steady drizzle that blurred the world outside into shades of gray. Inside the modest two-story house on Elmwood Lane, Daniel Carter sat in the living room, surrounded by quiet. It wasn't the comfortable kind of quiet, the sort that came after laughter or a long day of work. No, this was the kind of silence that echoed, that pressed against the walls, heavy and unrelenting. It had been 11 months since his daughter, Emily, died. She was only 7, a bright, curious child with a wild imagination and the habit of humming little songs whenever she was nervous. Her laughter had filled the house once. Her drawings still clung to the fridge, sun-faded but untouched. Daniel hadn't been able to take them down. The tragedy was simple and cruel. A car, a rainy intersection, a distracted driver, and a single moment that split Daniel's life into two, before and after. Everyone told him the same things. She's in a better place. You'll heal with time. You need to move on. But they didn't understand. You don't move on from your child. You just learn to exist without air. His wife, Laura, had tried. For a while, she went to therapy, joined grief groups, tried to rebuild what was left. But Daniel couldn't follow. He shut down instead, clinging to memories, reliving moments, drowning in guilt for being late the day of the accident. 3 months after the funeral, Laura left. No shouting, no fights. Just a note on the kitchen table that said, "I need to breathe again, Daniel. Please try to do the same." He never blamed her. Grief breaks people in different ways. Now, nearly a year later, Daniel lived alone with ghosts that weren't there. He kept Emily's room exactly as she left it. The same toys lined up on her shelf, the same bedspread with stars and moons. He even replaced the batteries in her nightlight every month, though it never turned on anymore. That night, the storm outside grew heavier. Rain splattered against the windows like soft tapping fingers. Daniel sat in the dark, staring at the flickering television screen, but his mind wasn't on the movie. It was on the sound. A faint knock. He turned down the volume. Nothing. Then again, knock, knock, knock. 3 soft taps at the front door. His chest tightened. For a split second, he thought he'd imagined it, just the wind, or maybe the creaking of old wood. But it came again. Slow, gentle, familiar. He stood up, heart pounding. That knock. It was the same rhythm Emily used to do when she was scared of storms. "Daddy? It's just me," she'd say, clutching her stuffed bear. He swallowed hard and walked toward the door. His reflection in the hallway mirror startled him. Pale, unshaven, hollow-eyed. As he reached the entryway, the power flickered. A flash of lightning illuminated the porch, and through the frosted glass panel of the door, he saw a small silhouette. A child. Daniel's breath caught. His trembling hand wrapped around the doorknob. When he opened the door, rain poured in, washing the smell of damp earth into the house. Standing on the porch was a little girl, no older than 7 or 8, shivering under a soaked pink raincoat. For a moment, Daniel couldn't move. His heart stuttered violently, his mind trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The same height, the same blue eyes, the same timid stance Emily used to have when she'd done something wrong. "Hello?" he whispered. The girl blinked up at him. Her lips trembled from the cold. I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know where else to go." Her voice, soft, shaky, pierced him like a knife. "Are you lost?" he managed to ask. She nodded, clutching the sleeves of her raincoat. "I was walking home with my foster mom. We got separated when it started raining. I couldn't find her." Daniel glanced past her, expecting to see someone, but the street was empty. Just rain, lamplight, and shadows. "Come in," he said instinctively. "You'll catch a cold." The girl hesitated, then stepped inside. Water dripped from her coat onto the floor. Daniel grabbed a towel and knelt to help her dry off. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lily," she said after a pause. "My name's Lily." The name struck something deep inside him. Lily. It was the name Emily had given to her favorite doll. He forced a smile. "That's a pretty name." She gave a small nod, her wet hair clinging to her face. Daniel made her a cup of cocoa while she sat quietly at the table, her big eyes scanning the house, the framed photos, the toys, the faint hum of silence that had lived there too long. "This house feels nice," she said suddenly. "Safe." Daniel froze for a second before replying. "It used to be." She tilted her head. "Used to." He smiled weakly. "It's complicated." After cocoa and a sandwich, Lily's eyelids drooped. She was exhausted. Daniel offered her the guest room, but she insisted on sleeping in the smaller one, Emily's old room. "I like the stars," she said, pointing to the ceiling stickers that still glowed faintly in the dark. Daniel hesitated but couldn't say no. He found her a blanket and helped her settle in. As he turned off the light, Lily murmured, "Thank you, Mr. Carter." He froze. He hadn't told her his name. When he turned back, she was already asleep. Daniel stood there for a long moment, his mind racing. Maybe she'd overheard it somehow. Maybe she'd seen the name on the mail by the door. That had to be it. Still, as he closed her door, a strange unease followed him down the hall. That night, for the first time in months, Daniel dreamed. He was standing in the rain again, but this time Emily was there, spinning in her pink coat, laughing, her arms stretched wide. "Don't close the door this time, Daddy," she said. And then she was gone, replaced by a small figure knocking in the dark. When Daniel woke up, sunlight streamed through the window. The storm had passed. For a moment, he wasn't sure if last night had been real, until he heard movement in the kitchen. The smell of burnt toast filled the air. He rushed downstairs and froze in the doorway. Lily was standing on a stool trying to flip pancakes. Batter was everywhere, flour dusted across her sleeves, and she was humming that same tune Emily used to hum. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. "I wanted to make breakfast, like Emily did." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "Emily," she repeated casually. "You told me about her last night." But he hadn't. Not a word. Before he could speak, a sharp knock echoed from the front door. He turned. A woman stood there, drenched, panicked, out of breath. "Please," she gasped. "Have you seen a little girl? About this tall, brown hair, pink raincoat. Her name's Lily." Daniel's mouth went dry. He turned back toward the kitchen, but Lily was gone. The stool had fallen over. The pancakes were burning. The back door stood open. Daniel stood frozen, his pulse hammering in his ears. The stranger on the porch, mid-30s, drenched from the rain, looked frantic. Her hair clung to her face, her clothes soaked through. "Please," she said again, catching her breath. "Her name's Lily. She ran off last night. I've been looking all morning. She's only 7. Daniel swallowed, glancing behind him as if Lily might reappear at any moment. The kitchen was empty, just the faint smell of burnt pancakes and a trail of flour on the counter. "She was here," he said quietly. "She came in last night. Said she got lost." The woman's eyes widened in relief. "Oh, thank God. Is she?" He shook his head. "She's gone. I turned around for a second, and she was just gone." The woman paled. "Gone? Where?" Daniel gestured to the back door. It was open. "Maybe she ran out before I noticed." The woman's voice cracked. "She does that sometimes when she's scared. She has trouble trusting people." Daniel nodded slowly. "You're her foster mother?" "Yes, Rachel." She wiped rain from her face. "Lily's been with me for 3 months. She's quiet, sweet, but she talks about things that—" Rachel hesitated, searching for words. "Sometimes she says things no one's told her. Personal things. About people she just met." Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. "Like what?" Rachel's eyes flicked around the house. "Did she mention someone named Emily?" Daniel's breath caught. "Yes." Rachel's shoulders sank. "She talks about her a lot. Says Emily is her friend." He stared at her. "That's impossible. My daughter Emily, she died last year." Rachel's face softened. "I'm so sorry. She couldn't have known that," he whispered. The two stood in silence for a moment, the only sound the soft patter of rain on the porch roof. Finally, Rachel said, "If she came here, it wasn't random. She's been drawing things lately, places I don't recognize. Maybe," she paused, "maybe this house is one of them." Daniel frowned. "Drawings?" Rachel nodded and reached into her bag, pulling out a small, water-stained notebook. Inside were children's sketches, rough but detailed. One page stopped Daniel cold. It was his house. Every line of it, the porch, the maple tree out front, even the cracked step near the door. And there, drawn in blue crayon, was a little girl standing by the window. Where did she see this? Daniel whispered. "I don't know," Rachel said softly. "When I asked her, she said, 'I used to live there before the rain.'" Daniel's knees felt weak. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to breathe. Before the rain. The night Emily died. It had rained. "I need to find her," he said. Rachel nodded. "I already called the police, but they don't know where she went. She wanders when she's scared. Parks? Old neighborhoods." Daniel grabbed his jacket. "Let's start with the park." The search stretched for hours. They drove through the gray streets of Ashton Creek, calling Lily's name near the playground, the corner store, the old library. Everywhere they went, the rain followed. A thin drizzle that blurred everything just enough to feel unreal. As they passed the intersection where Emily's accident happened, Daniel's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Rachel noticed. "Was this?" He nodded. "Yeah." She looked out the window. "I'm sorry." The traffic light turned red. Daniel stared ahead, the same faint hum of sirens echoing in his mind. He could still see the flash of that day. The crowd, the rain, the single pink rain boot lying on the pavement. "After she died," Daniel said quietly, "I told myself I'd never forgive myself for being late that day. But then, seeing Lily, it's like..." He trailed off. Rachel finished softly, "Like a second chance?" He didn't answer. By noon, they returned to Daniel's street. Rachel stepped out of the car first, staring toward the house. "Wait," she said suddenly, squinting at the window. Daniel followed her gaze. A small figure stood in the upstairs window, Emily's old room. "Lily," he breathed. They rushed inside. The house was still, silent except for the creak of the stairs. Daniel climbed first, calling out, "Lily? It's me. You're safe now." When they reached the bedroom, the door was open. The curtains swayed from a breeze. On the bed lay one of Emily's old toys, a stuffed bear. And on the desk, a piece of paper. Rachel picked it up. "It's another drawing." Daniel took it from her. His hands trembled as he looked closer. This time it wasn't the house. It was him, sitting alone in the living room, head bowed, a small shadow standing in the doorway behind him. The shadow was labeled in careful letters, "Me." "She drew this," Rachel whispered. "Before today." Daniel's voice cracked. "How is that possible?" Before Rachel could answer, a sound echoed down the hall, soft footsteps. They turned. Lily stood there, clutching Emily's pink raincoat. Her eyes were calm now, almost too calm for a child. "Hi, Daddy," she said. Daniel's world tilted. "What did you call me?" She blinked, confused. "You aren't you?" Rachel stepped forward gently. "Lily, sweetie, this is Mr. Carter. Remember?" But the girl only looked at Daniel. "You don't have to be sad anymore." His throat tightened. "Who told you that?" "Emily," she said simply. "She said you keep the stars on my ceiling, but you never look at them." Daniel felt his chest collapse inward. Those words, "the stars on my ceiling," were exactly what Emily had said the night before she died. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Lily, honey, who is Emily to you?" "She's my friend," Lily said softly. "She visits me in dreams. She said she had to go away, but someone needed you to hear her one last time." Daniel took a shaky step forward. "Lily, Emily's gone." The girl frowned. "She said she's not far. She just wants you to open the door next time." His mind raced. The phrase again, "Don't close the door this time, Daddy." The same one from his dream. Rachel put a hand on Lily's shoulder. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you home." But Lily shook her head. Not yet. He hasn't said goodbye. Daniel's breath hitched. What do you mean? The girl placed the raincoat on the bed and stepped closer. You keep looking for her in all the wrong places. She's in here. She touched her small hand to his chest. In your stories. In the rain. In the pink coat you never threw away. Tears blurred Daniel's vision. He dropped to his knees, his voice breaking. I can't. I don't know how. Lily smiled sadly. Emily said that's what you'd say. Then, quietly, she whispered something so soft he almost didn't hear it. She said to tell you, it wasn't your fault. The words hit like thunder. Daniel broke down, years of guilt and grief spilling out all at once. He buried his face in his hands, shaking. Rachel knelt beside him, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. When he finally looked up again, Lily was gone. The window was open, curtains swaying in the cool wind. The pink raincoat lay neatly folded on the bed. Hours passed before the police found Lily, safe, sitting by the pond in the park. She told them she just wanted to say goodbye to someone. When Rachel came to pick her up, Daniel was waiting outside. He knelt beside the car as Lily rolled down the window. Thank you, he said quietly. Lily smiled. Don't close the door next time. And then she was gone, the car disappearing down the road, taillights fading into the mist. Daniel stood there in the rain, looking up at the gray sky. For the first time in a year, he didn't feel angry at it. He felt at peace. He went back inside, into the room that had haunted him for so long. He folded the pink raincoat carefully and placed it in a box labeled Emily's things. Then he sat on the edge of her bed, breathing in the soft scent of rain and old memories. For the first time, the silence didn't hurt. 1 year later, autumn had returned to Ashton Creek, painting the streets in soft gold and fading orange. The storms were lighter now, gentle rains that whispered rather than roared. Inside the small house on Elmwood Lane, Daniel Carter sat at his kitchen table, the morning light spilling across a mug of coffee and an open notebook. He'd started writing again. Small things at first, memories, thoughts, fragments of his daughter's laughter. Words that had once been too heavy to hold now felt like threads of connection instead of chains of grief. A framed photograph of Emily rested beside his notebook. Her eyes sparkled with mischief, frozen forever in that last summer before the rain. Daniel smiled faintly. Morning, Em, he murmured. He had begun talking to her again, not out loud to the air like before, but softly, as though she was part of his thoughts. It wasn't pain anymore. It was peace. Since the day Lily disappeared from that room, something in him had shifted. The guilt that had crushed him for so long had started to loosen its grip. He didn't understand what had happened, not fully. But he didn't need to. Lily had been real. She'd been found safe. But the things she said, the way she knew, Daniel no longer searched for explanations. Sometimes, a moment doesn't have to make sense to matter. A visit from Rachel. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke his thoughts. A familiar knock followed, soft, measured, polite. When he opened the door, Rachel stood there, holding an umbrella and a smile. Daniel, she said warmly. It's been a while. He grinned. Almost a year. Come in. She stepped inside, brushing rain off her coat. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd check in. Lily wanted me to give you something. Lily. His expression softened. How is she? Good. Really good. She's with a permanent family now, adopted a few months ago. She's doing well in school. Talks about you sometimes. Daniel blinked. About me? Rachel nodded. She said you taught her what real kindness feels like. He looked away, his throat tightening. She taught me more than she'll ever know. Rachel smiled. Then I guess this belongs to you. She handed him a small, sealed envelope. His name, Mr. Carter, was written on the front in uneven handwriting. Daniel hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a folded piece of paper covered in bright crayon drawings. Stars, rain, and 2 stick figures holding hands under an umbrella. Beneath it, in Lily's handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for opening the door. Emily says you don't have to be sad now." The room went still. Daniel's hands trembled as he read the message again. His eyes burned, and for a long moment he couldn't speak. Rachel placed a gentle hand on his arm. "She doesn't talk about Emily anymore," she said softly. "But she wanted you to have that." He nodded slowly, his heart full of something he hadn't felt in years: gratitude. When Rachel left, Daniel stood by the window, watching the rain begin again. Light, almost playful. He pressed the letter to his chest and whispered, "Thank you, both of you." The hidden box. Later that evening, Daniel went upstairs. He hadn't entered Emily's room in months. Not out of pain now, but out of respect, as if it were a sacred space frozen in time. He sat on the bed, running a hand over the starry blanket. The nightlight still sat on the bedside table, unplugged, dusty. For a moment, he thought of how Lily had stood in the same spot, clutching the pink raincoat, saying things no child could have known. He reached under the bed and pulled out the small wooden memory box where he had kept Emily's things. The pink raincoat, a handful of photos, a half-finished drawing she'd made for him the week before she died. But when he opened it, something new caught his eye, something that hadn't been there before. An envelope, old, yellowed, tucked behind the folded coat. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a small letter in his wife Laura's handwriting. "Daniel, I found this in Emily's school folder after the accident. It's something she wrote in class the day before she died. I couldn't read it before, but I think you should." The second paper inside was written in a child's scrawl. "Things I love about rain. It sounds like Daddy's heartbeat when I fall asleep. Mommy says it means God is watering the flowers. It makes the world quiet so people have to listen. I like when Daddy holds my hand in it. When I grow up, I'll tell the rain to visit Daddy when he's sad, so he knows I'm near." Daniel's breath broke. Tears fell onto the page, blurring the ink. All the times it had rained since she died. Every storm, every drizzle, he had cursed it. He thought it was mocking him. Now he understood. It had been a reminder, not of loss but of presence. He pressed the paper to his chest, laughing through his tears. "You clever little girl," he whispered. "You kept your promise." The return. That night, the rain grew heavier. Daniel sat by the window, the letter and Lily's drawing spread across the table. The house no longer felt haunted, it felt alive. He opened the window slightly, letting the cool air and soft mist drift in. Somewhere outside, thunder rumbled, distant, gentle. He looked up at the ceiling. The glow in the dark stars still faintly shimmered, a handful of tiny lights against the dark. For the first time since Emily's death, Daniel spoke out loud to the empty room, not in grief, but in gratitude. "I heard you," he said quietly. "I finally opened the door." The rain answered with a soft, rhythmic tap against the glass 3 knocks. Daniel smiled through tears. "Yeah," he whispered. "I love you too." A year later, a year passed. The small house on Elmwood Lane had changed. The walls were painted a lighter color. The photos of Emily were now joined by new ones, snapshots of a life being rebuilt. Daniel volunteering at the community center, smiling with other kids during art lessons, helping with raincoat drives for foster children. He'd started a project in Emily's memory, the Open Door Foundation, a small local program providing care packages and shelter for foster kids in the area. Its slogan, written in Emily's handwriting from one of her old drawings, read, "No door should stay closed when someone's in the rain." The first child they helped was a little boy named Eli, found wandering after a storm. When Daniel handed him a new raincoat, the boy smiled up at him and said, "It's pink, my favorite color." Daniel laughed. "Then it's yours." That night, as Daniel locked up the center, he paused by the doorway. The rain had begun again, soft and steady, and for a moment, he thought he heard the faintest sound, laughter, light and sweet, fading into the rhythm of the rain. He didn't turn around this time. He didn't need to.